Welcome to the Great Basin Prescribed Fire and Smoke Transport Briefing for Wednesday, April 15th. Currently, we have quite a bit of prescribed fire activity over the northern portions of the Great Basin, especially in Idaho, into Wyoming, but also in parts of northern Utah and a few projects down south. Otherwise, smaller new wildfires in parts of Utah and up north, but these fires again remain small. Over the last 7 to 14 days, we've seen precipitation mainly move across northern and western areas of the Great Basin. And you can see significant new snowfall for the Sierra and then to a lesser extent up into Idaho, but really heavy amounts of precipitation even at lower elevations in parts of Idaho where some areas got over 1 to 2 inches of precipitation. Over the last 14 days, this precipitation is well above normal for parts of the north. You can still see some drier spots, especially across the southern tier and into the valleys of Utah. We have had new snowfall over the last 72 hours with the system that moved through over the weekend. And you can see the new snowfall amounts were heaviest in the Sierra, where we saw over 2 feet of snow in many locations. Up into Idaho and Wyoming, we had lesser amounts, but still seeing that 12 to 18 inches or more in some of the higher elevation locations. And then down into Utah and Nevada, amounts were not quite as widespread, but definitely saw some new snowfall in the higher elevations and even into some lower elevations, which melted fairly quickly. The snow depth is indicated on the right, and you can see again the snow depth mainly tied to the higher elevations. Even with this new snowfall, it still does not change our percentiles, and we don't expect that for this time of year, still remaining well below normal across the region, as due to the mid to late April time period where we will continue to see storms this month, we will have much higher sun angle, longer days, so any snow that does fall will be melting very rapidly. Currently, our ERC conditions, if we look at parts of Nevada into Utah, we are still seeing ERCs at record levels for the time of year. At least that was earlier this week into last week. You can see those have come down to near average, and we will see this trend continue to be downward with storms moving through this week and then going into next week as well. In southern areas, however, this is where the ERCs are still at maximums, as we haven't seen as much moisture down in the south. So we will see some windy conditions tomorrow, which could be of some concern, at least for the daytime period where the winds will be enhanced in the south. But you can see from the forecast line, we will even see areas in the south that we will see a drop, but not quite as significantly as areas further north, as again, the precipitation will be on the lower side. So looking at the weather pattern for today, we do have a strong area of low pressure moving into the northwest. This will push a cold front across the Great Basin over the next couple of days. So we will see those winds increase ahead of the cold front, especially over western and northern Nevada up into Idaho and even parts of northern Utah today. But you can see that is accompanied with moisture, so we will see higher humidities and eventually precipitation moving in along with these stronger winds. However, it still will be something to watch out for as the winds will be very gusty. Southern areas will remain dry today and dispersion really good region-wide as winds will even start picking up in the south. And looking at these transport winds, you can see again today the strongest winds over the northern half of the Great Basin. We could see some of these gusts above 50 or 60 miles per hour. There are quite a few wind advisories in effect from the National Weather Service. So just something to keep in mind, as especially if we see some of these stronger gusts in any areas where the ground's a little bit wetter from recent precipitation. That will be something to watch, as they could be some damaging winds localized. Otherwise, mixing heights remaining high. Today, temperatures will start to drop in the north, and we will see more significant temperature changes the next couple of days across the Great Basin. Otherwise, temperatures near to above normal in southern areas for another day. Relative humidity will remain lower in the far south and generally between about 8 or 10% and 15%. But you can see the higher humidities further north as that cold front brings those stronger winds, but also the moisture. As we move into Thursday, the cold front will sweep again across most areas of the Great Basin, moving into central areas and eventually sweep through the far east as we move later on Thursday and into Friday. So the strongest winds of any concern will be over the southern half of the Great Basin on Thursday. You can see the drier air quickly moving in behind it. Otherwise, dispersion good region-wide with these stronger winds. And you can see on Thursday these very strong winds over southern and eastern areas, so definitely something to keep in mind, especially with any prescribed fire activity that's ongoing. Or again, in the south, we are seeing ERCs still near record levels for the time of year and right around the 80th percentile. So again, much drier conditions in the south, so this could kick up fire potential during the day on Thursday as these winds emerge. because relative humidity still will be in the 10 to 15% range down south. Otherwise, mixing heights will be high in all areas. You can see the stark cold front moving across, so a significant drop in temperatures over northern and western areas on Thursday, still remaining warm in the south with those drier conditions. On Friday, the cold front sweeps through all areas. We still will have good dispersion as winds will still be elevated across the region with the exception of the far western areas as the ridge temporarily builds in off the west coast. Winds will drop more significantly on Friday, but still remain breezy across the Arizona Strip and into Utah. So we will still be watching those areas, although it will be accompanied by much cooler temperatures. Relative humidity will still remain on the dry side. Mixing heights will remain high. And you can see on Friday that more significant drop in temperatures. We'll see many areas in the 40s for high temperatures in Utah and even in the 50s down across the Arizona Strip. Looking at the relative humidity, you can start to see the drying trend already in Nevada with more single digits across southern Nevada, and these drier conditions will remain across the Arizona Strip and far southern Utah as those winds do remain breezy on Friday. Looking at the 3-day forecast amount of precipitation with this cold front moving through, most areas over the northern half of the Great Basin will at least see some light showers, if not more significant wetting rains, especially the further north you go up into Idaho, Wyoming, and northern Utah. However, over southern areas, these areas will still remain dry with little, if any, precip over parts of southern Nevada into the Arizona Strip and far southern Utah. Going into the weekend, we will see ridging move across the region, so drying trend going into Saturday with lighter winds. But you can see another stronger area of low pressure off the west coast, which will impact the region going into Sunday and next week. So winds will start increasing on Sunday as this area of low pressure approaches, and then will remain off the coast going into the early part of next week, likely with precipitation increasing as it does get a little bit closer next week. But otherwise, it will be a period of, again, some breezy to stronger winds, especially over the western half of the Great Basin. 7-day total precipitation, not much different than the 3-day, but we will see some influence from that system going into next week on the far west side. Looking at the rest of April, this is valid through April 28th, looking at generally cooler conditions with still above normal precipitation as April remains to be an active month with storm systems moving through the region every 3 to 5 days, bringing us changes in temperature, some stronger winds also, but also bringing precipitation. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back on Friday for the latest updates.